showed the emotions about how horrible it was that, they thought that they were nothing more than just, cheap trash or something like that, because they had to go to the different bathrooms. They had to dress a certain way. And she talked about how, colored people were not getting paid enough, so I can't wear, pearl necklaces around me. And they even talked about, and there was even a time where they had, like, different coffees. I mean, what the hell? What, plain whites, we had our regular coffee, and then there was just this nice little tea kettle that said colored on it. I'm like, are you kidding me? What the... It's not like they have diseases. What is going on here? Then finally Harris just said, you know what, we're not going to do that. It's basically one of those things like, we all shit, so we might as well all shit in the same toilet. So it was really cool to see that kind of break and fall apart. But the other big example was that was kind of also represented by Kirsten Dunst, who her character and Dorothy were very at each other's heads, but that was also because of the colored situation. But Jim Parsons' character, Paul Stanford, I believe was his name, and Catherine, they were butting heads because Paul didn't believe that it was not a place of work for a woman to be at. So you had basically two different kind of conflicting deals here that somehow balanced out very well. It wasn't purely on the fact that it was on color. It wasn't purely on the fact that it was because they were women. It just somehow found a way to balance it out. And in a negative way, of course, but also it was just really well done. I think that in the end, it definitely showed that hard work, commitment, and you can definitely make a difference. It all pays off in the end. And the ending of the movie is just so well done. They showed like bios for Mary and Dorothy and Catherine. Basically what happened after, I think it was Friendship 7, orbited around Earth for about 4 hours. And he talked about how Mary got her degree and helped out more with engineering. Dorothy did a lot more with supervising the numbers, making sure everything's working right. And Catherine, who it really made her out to be the biggest person out of all of this, where she got a medal in 2016, I believe it was, where she also got one of the NASA buildings named after her. It was just very well done. So I definitely say bravo. Definitely 5 stars, worth seeing. Hidden Figures was just a beautifully done movie. And the weird thing about it was that Hidden Figures is definitely a very appropriate name, because not only were they seemingly looking for hidden figures in mathematics, but also you had these hidden figures in each of these women, because they made such a difference and they changed the tide of what it was for NASA to get to that next level. Whether it was Catherine with her knowledge of math, whether it was Dorothy with her knowledge of supervising and representing all the ladies that she worked with, or whether it was Mary's ambition to go above and beyond and just be the best that she knew that she could be. It was just so well done, and they even had little stories where they talked about life outside of NASA, and it was just very, very, very touching. It was very good. Showed the love life of Mary as well as Dorothy, as well as the love life of Catherine, which was very well thought out. This was just a great movie, and I definitely recommend it. And I can definitely see why it's not only highly favored, but it also deserves Oscar for Best Picture. So definitely great job on Hidden Figures, Hollywood. You did a great, amazing job. Now we go from that to Manchester by the Sea, which was basically my back-to-back movie day the other day. And I will say this, that Casey Affleck, Ben Affleck's brother, he looked a lot more like Zac Efron than Ben Affleck, in all honesty. I was thinking, he doesn't really exactly look like a Affleck, to be honest. He looked more like an Efron. So that was just kind of one of those weird things. But basically, this movie was all about a man who basically tried to get away from home, trying to get away from his past, because it was just honestly very, very, there was a lot of hardships in going back home, because he would have to see so many different horrors that he did not want to deal with. So when his brother passed away, he was kind of forced to coming back so that way he can handle the funeral arrangements, make sure that everything of his property was taken care of, and even taking care of his nephew, brother's son, making sure that his life is basically planned out. And it was definitely one of those things where I will say this: at the beginning, before the movie even started, they had like a Hollywood Today deal where they were talking about the Oscars and 3 movies that they definitely needed to really kind of keep an eye out for. And it was La La Land, Manchester by the Sea, and Fences. Unfortunately, I did not get a chance to see Fences, so it'll probably not be in my list of Oscar nominated deals. But they mentioned with Manchester by the Sea that this was one of those movies that was definitely going to make you cry, so you definitely needed a lot of tissues, and they needed a lot of tissues. And I definitely can agree. The first hour and a half, I could see somebody just definitely bawling their eyes out. I know my mother would probably be crying for about an hour and a half, and she'd probably be crying until the end of the movie. It's one of those really emotionally invested movies. And it definitely had a lot of in-between flashbacks where they were just going from this happened in the past, this goes to the present, past, present, past, present, past, present. Everything like that. That happened throughout the movie, but it really happened more throughout the first hour and a half, like I said, and explains, why the relationship that Lee had with his brother Joe, the relationship he had with his nephew. He had a former wife and 3 kids, and then his life turned upside down, basically when the will said, hey, you're going to be your nephew's guardian. And he started just having these major flashbacks to a night where he inadvertently burned his house, and unfortunately his 3 children perished. It was a very heartfelt scene. It was definitely very, it really tugs on the heartstrings. And you kind of understand one of the reasons why Lee, the main character, was just so closed off, and why he was just not always there. And he's just kind of keeping to himself. His nephew's kind of a little more ambitious, a little more outgoing, I guess you could say. I shouldn't really give away too much, although I did probably just give away the main plot. But it does all work out for everybody in the end. It's a very thought out movie. Now, I have to be the kind of, I wouldn't say bearer of bad news, but kind of that guy who says, yeah, it's a great movie, but the thing is that it just felt like it dragged for a while. I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, in any movie, you need to have a beginning, a build-up, a climax, a cool-down, and then you have the ending. Something along those lines. I felt like this movie definitely had a beginning. It definitely had a good build-up. But halfway to the build-up, it just kind of flatlined a bit, where I didn't feel like there was that much of a conflict or a climax or anything like that. I would have thought that Lee's character maybe would have changed halfway through the movie, or something big and revolutionary would have happened, and it would change the series of the whole movie. It didn't really feel like anything changed. It was just kind of like going to stay in the norm of things. You would think there would be like this big change of somebody's perspective as being differently, or a big life event where it's just like, oh well, now I understand everything more clearly. I felt like that wasn't there, and maybe that's how they did it, and spot on you for going that direction. But it just, I don't know. I just did not feel like it worked out too well. Now, I know a lot of people will say Casey Affleck did a great job. Luke Hedges, Michelle Williams, all did a wonderful job. I think that the thing is that Casey Affleck's character was always the same throughout the movie, which, go figure. Michelle Williams, she didn't really play that much of a role in the movie. And then there's Luke Hedges, who was probably a little bit of the comedy relief, but also kind of the guy who had just was, like the jock. He had everything going for him. And that was kind of about it. And he was kind of getting away with cheating. So he had 2 girlfriends. Yeah. That was kind of one of those things where it's like no repercussions. So he's just going to basically get away with this. I mean, again, it goes back to what I said about La La Land with the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone. That there needs to be at least some sort of realism there. And don't get me wrong, the story in there was definitely real, but it just felt like the characters were not exactly as real as I thought it would be. It just, something just didn't click. I can't think about where it was, but it just felt like nothing was really clicking with me. Nothing was just like, oh, I'm fully invested. It was about, after I knew what happened with Lee and what happened with his past, that's kind of where I started checking out. And I would have blamed the fact that maybe it was because I wasn't sleeping too well, but it was more, looking back on it, I was like, no, it was something else. It's like, now I know what's going on. And then after I watched the rest of the movie, I'm like, I don't feel like I'm even that interested in seeing what happens. Like, they even had Matthew Broderick make an appearance, and don't get me wrong, he fit the role very well, but he did not really bring that much to the movie. So, in all honesty, Manchester by the Sea, I could see why they probably put it for Best Picture, but I don't see it winning. It's just one of those movies where it's just kind of like, it's kind of there. I mean, it's not really like, it's more of like a dramatic movie. It's not like a romance or something like that, or even a chick flick. It was just one of those things where it's like, okay. It's kind of dramatic, kind of like a soap opera, I guess. Nothing really too major. I don't know. So, definitely would say that, it probably would just be one of those movies I would watch once and then be like, yeah, I watched it. Whatever. But like I said, Hidden Figures has definitely got my major vote when it comes to the Oscars, which is happening in a few weeks, so definitely look forward to that. Hunting Ground was very well done. It was very real, but it definitely drove the message hard. But one thing you could take away from this is that even though you're one person, as John Walsh would always say, you can make a difference, and that is very true. So definitely you guys go out there, make a difference, and be the best that you can be. Find a way to make a difference, whether it's something simple like, donating to a charity, whether it's being nice to somebody, even if they're not being nice to you. I mean, every day I find reason to think, why should I be nice to this person? But I still be nice to them anyway, because somehow I know I'm making a difference in their life one way or another. So definitely take that away from this whole experience, especially with a lot of these movies. But that is going to be What Did I Just Watch? I'm hoping that I gave you guys a little more info, a little more insight of what all happened. So thank you guys so much for joining me here. And I will see you guys and talk to you guys on Wednesday as well as on Friday. So this weekend's going to be crazy. So again, thank you so much. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.